Japan has a problem most countries would consider a luxury. Too many old people. Not elderly people in the Western sense. People in decline, managing conditions, spending their final years in waiting rooms, but genuinely, functionally old people. People in their 80s who walk to the market every morning. People in their 90s who tend gardens, cook their own meals, and meet friends for tea. People over 100 who are, by any reasonable measure, still living rather than simply existing. Okinawa, Japan's southern island chain, has one of the highest concentrations of centenarians anywhere on the planet. Researchers have spent decades studying this, sending teams, running studies, publishing papers, and what they keep finding is not a pharmaceutical answer, not a superfood, not a supplement protocol. What they keep finding is a set of daily habits so ordinary and unglamorous they're almost impossible to market. Here are 17 of them. 1. They walk everywhere and never think of it as exercise. Japanese daily life, dense neighborhoods, excellent transit, shops within walking distance of almost every home means walking is simply how you get places. Not a workout, not a step count goal, just how Tuesday works. This matters more than it sounds. Exercise framed as exercise requires motivation that most people can't sustain across decades. Walking that is simply what you do requires none of that. It happens daily, automatically, for a lifetime. The cardiovascular, cognitive, and metabolic benefits of consistent moderate movement are among the most robustly documented findings in all of medicine. 2. They eat until 80% full. Hara Hachi Booze, 4 words cited in more longevity research than almost any other single cultural practice. The stomach sends fullness signals to the brain on a 20-minute delay. If you eat until you feel full, you've already eaten more than you needed. Stopping at 80% means feeling exactly right 20 minutes later. The caloric reduction this produces across a lifetime is significant. Studies on mild caloric restriction consistently show reduced oxidative stress, slower cellular aging, and lower rates of virtually every chronic disease associated with aging in the Western world. 3. They eat many small dishes rather than one large one. A traditional Japanese meal contains rice, miso soup, a small piece of fish, pickled vegetables, a side of simmered greens. Each portion is modest. The variety is significant. This dietary diversity feeds a gut microbiome that is more varied, more resilient, and more protective against the chronic inflammation that underlies most age-related disease. The Japanese plate wasn't designed as a microbiome intervention. It's simply how Japanese food has always looked. But the outcome, one of the most health-protective dietary patterns ever studied, follows naturally from a meal structure built around variety rather than volume. 4. They eat fermented foods at almost every meal. Miso, soy sauce, tsukemono pickles, natto, rice vinegar. These appear at virtually every Japanese meal, and the gut microbiome of the average Japanese person reflects decades of consistent exposure to them. Fermented foods deliver live beneficial bacteria, organic acids, and bioactive compounds that support digestive health, immune function, and the production of serotonin, 90% of which is made in the gut, not the brain. A bowl of miso soup every morning is not a supplement protocol, it is breakfast. But the effect of that bowl every morning for 70 years is significant in ways a sporadic probiotic capsule cannot replicate. 5. They maintain strong social bonds throughout their lives. Moai, the Okinawan concept of a small social group typically formed in childhood that meets regularly throughout life, providing financial support in hardship, emotional support in difficulty, and the irreplaceable experience of being known by people who have known you for decades. Loneliness increases mortality risk by roughly 26%, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and more dangerous than obesity or physical inactivity. Japanese elderly people are not isolated. They are embedded in social structures that provide regular, meaningful human contact as a structural feature of daily life, rather than something that has to be consciously arranged. 6. They have a reason to get up in the morning. Ikigai, roughly translated as reason for being, but in practice among Japanese elderly people it is often something small. A garden that needs tending, a grandchild who visits on Thursdays, a craft practiced daily, a routine that gives the morning a direction. People who report a strong sense of purpose live longer, experience less cognitive decline, recover better from illness, and report higher well-being across every measure. Japanese elderly people don't retire from purpose. The garden still needs tending. Thursday still comes. The morning still has somewhere to point. 7. They move their bodies in natural, functional ways all day. Japanese elderly people squat to garden. They sit on the floor and rise without assistance. They carry shopping, climb stairs, kneel at low tables. These are not exercises. They are the functional movements of daily life in an environment built around low furniture and floor-level living. The ability to perform functional movements, squatting, rising from the floor, carrying, reaching, is one of the strongest predictors of longevity and independence in old age. Japanese daily life maintains these patterns naturally across an entire lifetime. You don't need to practice getting up from the floor if you get up from the floor every day. 8. They spend time in nature regularly. Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, formalized as a public health practice in Japan in 1982 and extensively researched since. Time among trees reduces cortisol, lowers blood pressure, improves immune function through increased natural killer cell activity, and reduces inflammatory markers. The organic compounds released by trees appear to have direct measurable effects on human immune function when inhaled. Japanese elderly people don't frame their park walks as a health intervention. They walk because it is pleasant, because their friends walk there, because the air is different under the trees. The health outcome follows from the habit, not the intention. 9. They keep a consistent daily routine. The circadian system, the internal clock governing sleep, hormone release, metabolism, and cellular repair, runs most efficiently when its inputs are consistent. Same wake time, same meal times, same pattern of light and activity and rest. Japanese elderly daily life is characterized by consistency. The same walk at the same time, the same meal structure, the same social engagements on the same days. The body given consistent rhythm maintains the hormonal and metabolic cycles that support health and cognitive function far more effectively than it does in the irregular patterns modern Western life tends to produce. 10. They sleep in environments designed for sleep. Cool, dark, quiet rooms, low sleeping surfaces that keep the spine neutral. Bedrooms used for sleep and nothing else. Evening baths timed to produce the core temperature drop that initiates deep sleep. No screens in the sleeping environment. Sleep is where the body performs the cellular repair, waste clearance, and immune maintenance that keep it functioning properly. Chronic poor sleep accelerates almost every biological marker of aging. Consistent, deep sleep slows them. Japanese elderly people don't think of their sleep habits as a longevity intervention. They think of them as simply how you sleep. 11. They stay mentally active through things they love. Shogi, ikebana, calligraphy, tea ceremony, haiku. Japanese culture offers elderly people an extraordinary range of mentally demanding practices pursued for pleasure and social connection. Not because anyone told them it was good for their brain. The cognitive benefits of continued mental engagement are well documented. The critical difference is framing. In the West, brain health tends to be approached through apps and programs designed specifically as cognitive interventions. In Japan, it tends to be approached through practices people love. Motivation sustained by love outlasts motivation sustained by health concern by decades. 12. They drink green tea throughout the day. Not as a supplement, simply as what you drink. Hot in winter, cold in summer, throughout the day in small cups. The catechins in green tea, particularly EGCG, are among the most studied antioxidant compounds in any food, with demonstrated anti-inflammatory, cardiovascular protective, and neuroprotective effects. Green tea also contains L-theanine, which promotes calm, focused alertness without the anxiety spike that coffee produces. The cumulative effect of 4 or 5 cups daily across 60 or 70 years of adult life is significant in ways a recent convert simply hasn't had time to experience. 13. They eat fish as their primary protein. Oily fish, mackerel, sardines, salmon, sari provide omega-3 fatty acids at levels difficult to achieve through any other dietary pattern. Omega-3s reduce systemic inflammation, support cardiovascular health, maintain cognitive function, and appear to slow several biological processes closely associated with cellular aging. The average Japanese person eats significantly more fish and significantly less red meat than the average Westerner, not as a health choice, but as a simple reflection of what Japanese food has always been. The cardiovascular health statistics of Japanese elderly populations compared to Western counterparts make the difference visible. 14. They rest without guilt. Inamuri, sleeping in public, is not only tolerated in Japan but carries a subtle social signal of dedication. You are so committed to your life that your body has demanded rest, and you are giving it what it needs without apology. The chronic sleep deprivation and rest avoidance that characterizes so much of Western adult life is genuinely foreign to how Japanese daily life operates. Rest is not laziness. A nap is not a failure. The body needs rest the way it needs food, not as a reward for effort, but as a requirement for function. 15. They maintain their sense of humor. Consistently observed by researchers spending time with Japanese elderly populations, particularly in Okinawa, is a lightness, a readiness to laugh, to tease, to find the comic element in difficulty. Older Okinawan women in particular are noted for a robust, irreverent humor that seems to increase rather than diminish with age. The physiological effects of laughter and positive emotion on health are documented. Cortisol drops, immune markers improve, cognitive decline slows. The Japanese elderly people living longest and best are not solemn or austere. They find things worth laughing about. That turns out to matter more than almost anyone thought to measure. 16. They remain useful to their community. Japanese elderly people babysit grandchildren, tend community gardens, staff local festivals, teach skills to younger generations. They show up reliably in roles that would be diminished by their absence. The sense of being needed, of having a contribution others would notice the absence of, is one of the most consistently identified protective factors against the depression, cognitive decline, and physical deterioration that can follow retirement. You don't have to retire from being useful. Japanese culture has never suggested you should. 17. They accept aging without fighting it. Wabi-sabi, the Japanese aesthetic philosophy that finds beauty in imperfection and the natural passage of time, extends into how aging is understood. An old face is not a failed young face. It is the record of a life. Wrinkles are not defects. They are history. The psychological freedom of not fighting your own aging is measurable. The stress of resisting an inevitable biological process produces cortisol. Cortisol accelerates aging. Acceptance removes that stress and produces outcomes. Lower inflammation, better sleep, better mood, better immune function that expensive anti-aging interventions were trying to achieve through entirely different means. Japanese elderly people living longest and best are not trying to look younger than they are. They are fully, comfortably, gracefully the age they have become. And in that acceptance, they carry a contentment that turns out to be one of the most powerful things a human body can experience. None of these habits are expensive. None require a gym membership, a supplement, or anything you can buy. They are the habits of people who built a life around certain principles: community, purpose, moderation, movement, rest, humor, and acceptance, and then simply kept living that life day after day, until the days accumulated into something remarkable. The Western wellness industry will tell you the answer to aging is something you can purchase. Japan's elderly population suggests otherwise. The answer is a walk, a cup of green tea, lunch with someone who has known you for 50 years, an afternoon doing something you love, a bath before bed, then tomorrow, then the day after. One ordinary day at a time, Nary.